cheering. And he was like, oh, with $350?
Yeah, come through in the background. All right. Hello, Sunnyvale, San Jose, Bay Area, and all of our friends and family listen to us on this day. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us today to maintain the fire in the Black Lives Matter movement. Woo! I stand here today with my co-organizers, Brittany and Becca. And today, Brittany and I want to discuss hidden figures of the civil rights movement along with the truth about the 4th of July. To begin with, Malcolm X said, the most disrespected woman in America is a black woman. The most unprotected person in America is a black woman. And the most neglected person in America is a black woman. The reasoning behind this quote comes from the idea that black women are victims of misogyny along with systematic and systemic oppression.
Period. Black women are the most underrated individuals, and today we will talk about the lives and accomplishments of familiar names not mentioned in much history. Coretta Scott King and Septima Poinsett Clark. To begin with, Coretta Scott King, a black woman whose name is not mentioned in our history books, besides the fact that she is late. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s wife was one of the most driven and influential social justice advocates, not just in the U.S., but in the world. Her intellect and drive for change were prepared by her family, education, and passion for a life committed to social justice. Mrs. King traveled all over the world and spoke on racial and economic justice, women's and child's rights, gay and lesbian dignity, religious freedom, the needs of poor and full
She did a lot.
healthcare, educational opportunities, nuclear disarmament, and environmental justice. Additionally, she ignited a pro-democracy movement worldwide and consulted with many world leaders, including Corazon, I can't say these names.
Corazon Aquino, Kenneth Kaunda, and Nelson Mandela.
Period. When her husband, Dr. King, was assassinated in 1968, Mrs. King continued their legacy and devoted her time to building and developing programs for Atlanta-based Martin Luther King Jr. Center for Nonviolent Social Change as a living memorial to her husband's life and dream. As founding president, chair, and chief executive officer, she dedicated herself to providing local, national, and international programs that have trained tens of thousands of people in Dr. King's philosophy and methods. Additionally, she guided the creation and housing of the largest archives of documents from civil rights movements that's not all. Her greatest legacy after she established the King Center itself was when she lobbied and fought to establish Dr. King's birthday as a national holiday.
MLK Day!
We love MLK Day. In 1983, Congress proposed an act that instituted the Martin Luther King Jr. Federal Holiday Commission, which she chaired for the duration. In January 1986, Mrs. King created the first legal holiday in honor of her husband, Dr. MLK, a holiday that is celebrated by millions of people worldwide in over 100 countries. Additionally, in 1974, Mrs. King formed a broad coalition of over 100 religious, labor, business, civil, and women's rights organizations dedicated to a national policy of full
You got it.
and equal economic opportunity. As co-chair of both the National Committee for Full Employment and the Full Employment Action Council, in 1983 she joined more than 800 human rights organizations to establish the Coalition of
Conscience. You got it.
In 1987, she helped lead a national mobilization against fear and intimidation in Forsyth County, Georgia in 1988. She reconvened the Coalition of
Conscience.
I'm conscious for the 25th anniversary of
Go Brittany!
the March on Washington in preparation for the Reagan-Gorbachev talks in 1988. She served as head of the U.S. delegation of women for a meaningful summit in Athens, Greece. And in 1980, as the USSR was redefining itself, Mrs. King was convener of the Soviet American Women's Summit in Washington, D.C. Mrs. King was one of the most influential African American leaders of her time.
Woo!
Mrs. King received honorary doctorates from over 60 colleges and universities, authored 3 books and a nationally syndicated newspaper column, and served on and co-founded organizations including the Black Leadership Forum, the National Black Coalition for Voter Participation, and the Black Leadership Roundtable. Coretta Scott King had a vision and she acted on it. Her fight for change created history.
Period. Woo! Now, everybody, we're going to talk about Septima Poinsett Clark. She was known as the mother of the movement and the epitome of a community teacher, intuitive fighter for human rights, and leader of her unlettered, disillusioned people. Clark was the daughter of a laundry woman and a former slave, born on the 3rd of May in 1898 in Charleston, South Carolina. She graduated from secondary school in 1916 and then taught at an all-black school on Johns Island after she passed her teacher's exam. Clark pursued her education year-round, including summer breaks. In 1937, Clark studied under W.E.B. Du Bois at Atlanta University before eventually earning her B.A. in 1942 from Benedict College in Columbia and her M.A. in 1946 from Virginia Hampton's Institute. Woo! Additionally, Clark worked with the YWCA, a welfare movement organization, and participated in a class action lawsuit filed by the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People or the NAACP that led to pay equity for black and white teachers in South Carolina. Woo! In 1956, South Carolina passed a statute that prohibited city and state employees from belonging to civil rights organizations. After 40 years of teaching, Clark's employment contract was not renewed when she refused to resign from the NAACP. She was fired. When Clark was fired in 1956, she began to conduct workshops during her summer vacations at Highlander Folk School in Montego, Tennessee, a grassroots education center dedicated to social justice. Fun fact, Rosa Parks participated in one of Clark's workshops just months before she launched the Montgomery bus boycott. Woo! After Clark lost her teaching position, Miles Horton hired Clark full-time as Highlander's director of workshops. He believed that literacy and political empowerment are interconnected. Clark taught people basic literacy skills, their rights and duties as U.S. citizens, and how to fill out voter registration forms. Go vote and don't vote Trump!
Period. Or Kanye.
Yeah, or Kanye.
Don't vote Kanye.
Yeah. When the state of Tennessee forced Highlander to close in 1961, the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, or the SCLC, established the Citizenship Education Program, the CEP, to model Clark's citizenship workshops. Clark became SCLC's Director of Education. And teaching. During this time, she conducted teacher training and developed curricula. After Clark retired from SCLC in 1970, Clark conducted workshops for the American Field Service. In 1975, she was elected to the Charleston, South Carolina School Board. The following year, the governor of South Carolina reinstated her teacher's pension after declaring that she had been unjustly terminated in 1956. She was given a Living Legacy Award by President Jimmy Carter himself in 1979 and published her second memoir, Ready From Within, in 1986. Both of these black women hold a place in my heart because they show resilience and the passion to be the catalyst that ignites the change in our country. It is women like them that inspire me to stand up to do here what I'm doing today. And a quick reminder, when I say women, that includes Black transgender women.
Yep.
Because they are women.
Period.
Now, Black women are the most underrated beings on this planet because they fear us and our abilities to rise. Because, as Black author Stephanie Lawhart said, Black women have incomparable faith, strength, resilience, creativity, and work ethic. There is nothing we can't do or can't be. We are exquisite Black queens,
Yep.
born with excellence inside our DNA, and we will always be royalty.
And that's the T.
Woo!
One last thing. When we sing the Star Spangled Banner, we only sing the first verse, when in actuality, the song has 4 other verses not taught in schools. Now let's focus on the third verse. It says, "And where is that band who sought so vauntingly swore that the havoc of war and the battle's confusion, a home, a country should leave us no more. Their blood has washed out of their foul footsteps pollution. No refugee could save the hireling and slave from the terror of flight and the gloom of the grave."
This is America's national anthem, preserving the lyrics that dehumanize African Americans. This country was founded on racism as colonial white aliens stripped this land away from the indigenous people and stole African Americans from their homeland. The Declaration of Independence says all men are created equal. However, the men who crafted the Constitution owned slaves. July 4th, 1776 is not our Independence Day because the only people that were considered free were white men. An important thing to remember is Black history is our history. Black history is American history. However, it is often whitewashed and censored. For instance, my granddad showed me the page out of a textbook that you would use in schools, and this textbook showed a slave owner shaking hands with a Black slave who was in a suit and tie, and that was how Americans welcomed slaves. Woo! And that was the textbook's depiction of how America would welcome slaves, them wearing a suit and tie. But we all know that it did not happen this way. Eugene Ionesco said, "Ideologies separate us, but dreams and anguish bring us together." And in similarity to Dr. MLK, woo! And in similarity to Dr. MLK, I have a dream for change. But in order to have change, we had to address the problem. And to address the problem, people, meaning police and white supremacists, need to take accountability for their violent actions so we could get justice. My dad has a saying that resonated with me that summarizes this. Power LP, power, love, peace. To have power, you have to have love. To have love, you have to have peace. And to have peace, all violence must cease. Thank you for listening, everybody.
Yay! Yay!